Everything changed, literally in a matter of seconds. You really think you understand how the National Football League works, right? You think on-field production guarantees job security. You think, hey, dragging my franchise to a Super Bowl basically cements my legacy. But the truth? In the modern NFL, loyalty is a complete myth. And those massive long-term contracts we always hear about, they're nothing more than beautifully disguised illusions. Welcome to this deep dive explainer. Today we're uncovering one of the most ruthless, highly calculated roster transformations in recent NFL history. But before we pull back the curtain on this, I need you to do something for me. Your home for this journey is NFL Nexus, so please subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and definitely comment on what you think down below. Also, if you want to help us keep producing this kind of premium deep dive content, consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. Okay, let's dive right into this incredibly dramatic post-Super Bowl roster pivot in New England. We've got to take a serious, uncompromising look at this today because the stakes, and honestly the sheer amount of money involved, they absolutely demand it. I want you to just picture this scene for a second. The adrenaline is literally still coursing through his veins. We are talking about Super Bowl LX, the absolute biggest stage in all of professional sports. Stefon Diggs had just led the New England Patriots through an unbelievably grueling, hard-fought season. Sure, they ultimately fell short to the Seattle Seahawks, but he had stood up there at the podium, he looked dead into the cameras, and told the entire world he was super proud of my teammates. But the confetti had barely been swept off the field when the phone call came. No warning. The franchise was just done with him. Roughly a week before free agency even opened, the Patriots front office informed him that he'd be released at the exact start of the new league year on March 11th. And here's the kicker. He wasn't cut because he couldn't play anymore. He wasn't cut because he had suddenly lost a step. He was cut because the math demanded it. Which brings us to the shocking reality of his departure. It's a move that completely blindsided fans, players, and analysts alike. Let's just look at the undeniable facts for a minute. Put the emotions aside and look at the tape. In the 2025 season, Stefon Diggs hauled in 85 catches. He bled on that field for 1,013 receiving yards. He found the end zone for 4 crucial touchdowns. And perhaps most importantly, he became the very first New England Patriots wide receiver in 6 long years to crack that 1,000-yard mark. Think about that context. For 6 entire years, this franchise desperately searched for a true alpha dog. For 6 years, they sorely lacked a receiver who actually demanded double coverage from a defense. Diggs came in and provided exactly what they asked for. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler, delivering exactly what he was paid to deliver. He didn't just participate in this offense, he was the absolute lifeblood of it. But as we're about to see in the cold, extremely harsh reality of NFL front offices, pride and production buy you absolutely zero leverage. Because the truth is, all that incredible on-field performance became entirely irrelevant the exact second the accountants opened their spreadsheets. When that massive cap number hit $26.5 million, the game tape just didn't matter anymore. The 1,000 yards didn't matter. The veteran leadership during a grueling Super Bowl run didn't matter at all. The money spoke significantly louder than the player ever could. And this brings us directly into the mechanics of the deal itself. Welcome to the ultimate contract mirage. Now, what's truly fascinating when you break this down is the exposure of what we call a poison pill. Back in March of 2025, Stefon Diggs signed what was loudly announced to the public as a 3-year, $69 million contract. On paper, right, it looked like a massive, rock-solid commitment. But if you actually dig into the fine print, it was a complete trap. Look at the structure here on the screen. Just look at the staggering discrepancy between these numbers. His 2025 base salary sat at a highly manageable $2.9 million. But his 2026 base salary, it exploded. It ballooned up to $20.6 million. That massive jump, going from literal pocket change for a superstar all the way to franchise quarterback level money, that was not some accidental miscalculation by the front office. No, that was completely baked into the structure from day one. Out of that flashy $69 million you saw in the headlines, only $22.6 million was actually guaranteed. The rest of it was a total mirage. It was a perfectly designed escape hatch built exactly for this moment. $16.8 million. That is the instant, immediate cap savings the Patriots gained by pulling the plug before the new league year officially kicked off. The timeline here is absolutely critical to understand. By releasing Diggs exactly when they did, sure, the Patriots absorbed a $9.7 million dead cap charge. You always got to pay the piper somewhat. But they completely avoided an additional $6 million that would have become fully 100% guaranteed by the end of that very week. Diggs' looming cap hit was set to consume a massive 7.5% of the team's entire salary cap. The franchise looked at the math, they looked at the player, and they ruthlessly chose the money. So the really crucial point to grasp here is that cutting their best receiver didn't just save them cash for this current year. By making this incredibly ruthless pivot, the Patriots also cleared roughly $22.5 million in additional cap space for 2027. When you combine it all, New England essentially opened up nearly $40 million in total flexibility across 2 seasons. $40 million. For smart front office, that kind of cash is an entire draft class. That is crucial defensive line depth. That is total operational flexibility to build a championship roster. In their eyes, his 7th career 1,000-yard season simply weighed far less than 2 years of massive cap relief. But this move goes way beyond just New England. It creates a massive, league-wide ripple effect. Because the precedent that Diggs' release sets is incredibly simple and it is brutally efficient. This right here, this is the new template for NFL team building. You sign the aging veteran on a cheap upfront deal. You extract one elite, high-level season of production out of them, and then you cut them loose right before the real money actually arrives. Once you see this pattern, honestly, you cannot unsee it. So many of these so-called long-term NFL contracts are effectively just one-year deals wearing a very clever 3-year disguise. Teams are just going to keep loading the guaranteed money into year 1 while heavily inflating the later salaries until they become literally impossible to honor. They build these deals exactly like you'd build a car lease, with a massive balloon payment at the very end, low monthly cost up front, and a staggering bill later that everyone secretly knows will trigger a return. Let's put this into perspective for the player himself. Stefon Diggs is 32 years old. In the brutal economy of the NFL receiver market, when you hit 32, you are treated as a rapidly depreciating asset, completely regardless of what the actual game tape shows. Right now, his leverage is shrinking by the hour. His projected new market value currently sits around $27.6 million over 2 years. That is roughly half. Let me repeat that. Half. The annual rate New England just refused to pay him. Every single receiver over the age of 30 who is watching this story unfold just saw their own negotiating position weaken. Now, a 32-year-old star like Diggs has to desperately scramble for a new home. And there are definitely whispers. There's serious talk of him joining the Washington Commanders. His brother, Trevin Diggs, is now playing with the Green Bay Packers, so there's obviously a family connection there. The Rams and the Ravens also remain very much in the conversation. And look, with his recent legal cloud officially clearing up after an acquittal back on May 5th, the landing spots absolutely exist. But here is the harsh reality. Every single one of those teams will offer significantly less money than the deal he just had torn up. So New England clears the books. The deck is totally reshuffled, which sets the stage for a massive counterpunch. You really want to know what $40 million in sudden cap flexibility actually buys you in the National Football League? I'll tell you. It buys you a total blockbuster trade with the Philadelphia Eagles on June 1st. The Patriots traded away the 32-year-old Stefon Diggs, and they immediately brought in the 28-year-old absolute superstar A.J. Brown. This is the ultimate Patriot pivot right here. They didn't just save a ton of money, they fundamentally upgraded. They got younger, they got significantly bigger, they secured a player who is currently sitting in the absolute prime of his physical career. And the expectations for this new pairing? Honestly, they are astronomical. Just listen to offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. Now remember, this is a man who has coached some of the greatest offensive weapons to ever play the game of football. When he was asked about Brown, McDaniels straight up said, "Not sure if I've been around one that looks just like him." And then, McDaniels specifically brought up Randy Moss. I mean, let's just lean into this lore for a second, because the comparisons are impossible to ignore. Think about both Moss and Brown. Tall, incredibly fast, completely disgruntled stars at the exact time of their respective trades, both arriving in New England with massive, heavy chips on their shoulders and absolutely everything to prove. I'm telling you, when you were being compared to Randy Moss before you even play a single snap in Foxborough, the stakes are as high as they can possibly get. Which leads us to the final piece of this puzzle, the human element and the culture of a locker room. And this is where A.J. Brown really proved that he deeply understands the heavy weight of New England history. See, everyone naturally expected Brown to wear number 11. I mean, he wore it in Tennessee, he wore it in Philadelphia, and the number was technically wide open after Joshua Dobbs was released. Brown even has a deeply documented admiration for Patriots legend Julian Edelman. But instead of just taking the jersey, Brown came out and said this: "Julian Edelman gave me his grace to wear 11, but I got so much respect and so much love for him, I'm going to let that be, and I'm going to create my own legacy here." It gives you chills, right? Brown actually returned to his Ole Miss college roots and chose to wear number 1. He chose to respectfully honor the history of the slot receiver who totally defined the 2010s for the Patriots, rather than trying to overwrite it. He is making a clear statement.
He wants to be the greatest player in franchise history to ever wear number 1.
And this massive arrival, it has sent an absolute shock of electricity into the single most important player on the roster, quarterback Drake May. According to multiple reports from inside the building, May has returned this offseason completely transformed. Josh McDaniels actually described May as being deeply intentional and purposeful every single day he walks into the facility. Even A.J. Brown himself noted how struck he was when he watched the young quarterback literally take over an entire offensive meeting from McDaniels. Think about the growth there. Last year, May was just trying to keep his head above water, just trying to learn the basic language of an NFL offense. But this year, he has an elite 28-year-old alpha receiver to throw the ball to, and he is fully commanding the room. The synergy that is building between a hungry, rapidly evolving franchise quarterback and a superstar receiver with a massive point to prove, it's building immense, terrifying excitement for this Patriots offense.
So we come to the end of this explainer. We've seen the raw production on the field, we've dissected that incredibly ruthless contract mirage, and we've witnessed the dramatic birth of a brand new era in Foxborough with A.J. Brown and Drake May. But I want to leave you with this striking, almost unanswerable final thought, a thought that really summarizes the ruthless duality of the NFL business as a whole. Look closely at what just happened to Stephon Diggs. Was cutting a 1,000-yard receiver, a guy fresh off a grueling Super Bowl appearance, an act of brilliant, perfectly pragmatic cap management? Or was it a franchise staring its locker room dead in the face and telling every single veteran that loyalty, sweat, and on-field production mean absolutely nothing when the financial bill comes due? Think about that for a second. Let me know your answer down in the comments. I'm your host for this explainer here on NFL Nexus. Keep learning, always keep questioning the narrative, and I will see you on the next deep dive.